Some Bible scholars believe that Tartarus may possibly be a special section of hell. They believe that Tartarus, all scholars, that Tartarus is not the same place as where wicked humans will be taken into gloomy dungeons to be held for judgment. Firstly, we must recognize that the fallen angels were created by God to serve him. They were not initially evil or sinful, but they chose to rebel against a holy God and pursue their own desires. This rebellion led to their downfall and punishment, as they were cast out of heaven and confined to a place of darkness and suffering. Jude chapter 1 verse 6. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their own home, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. This teaches us an important lesson about sin. Sin may seem appealing and desirable in the moment, but it always leads to destruction and punishment. The fallen angels were once glorious and powerful beings, but their rebellion against God led to their downfall and eternal suffering. They held positions of authority in the spiritual realm, but they went against the will of the Lord. These fallen angels did exactly what Adam and Eve did when they were in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve lost their positions in the Garden of Eden when they did what God had commanded them not to do. Genesis chapter 3, verses 23 through 24. So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work on the ground from which he had been taken. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. The fallen angels we are looking into today also lost their position when they sinned. This is one of the most important truths about God. God always judges sin. God judges sin every time. If he didn't judge sin every single time, then he would be a liar. And if he is a liar, he is not God. Fundamentally, God judges sin every time. Furthermore, this should be a humbling reminder that God is not a respecter of persons. If God judged the angels, who in many respects are higher than men, he will certainly judge rebellious mankind. God has a zero tolerance for rebellion. God has a zero tolerance of sin of any kind. Romans chapter 1 verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. God has a zero tolerance for rebellion. God has a zero tolerance of sin of any kind. Every single sin that any person has ever committed will be punished directly with the individual who committed those sins, and the one and only way for an individual to escape the full punishment of their sins is through accepting the substitutionary death of the perfect, holy, and righteous Jesus Christ on the cross. Secondly, the concept of fallen angels in chains reminds us of God's justice and righteousness. Even the most powerful and privileged beings are subject to God's judgment and punishment when they rebel against him. God's justice is perfect and impartial, and he will not let sin go unpunished. This should give us comfort, knowing that God is in control and that justice will ultimately prevail in the end. This world is